And 10 years old, I just kind of continued filling the house up with 12 and 13 and 14 and 15-year-old girls. And then I got to be 18 and 19, and they said, man, we're getting out of here. This guy is. But it worked. You know, it didn't replace my daughter, but you know, there's a lot of hungry feelings when your home is broken. And this happens to be my home, and my first home, because I was pushed out when I was 2 years old, abandoned, and you know, it's another sob story. But in my entire lifetime, I'm 64 now. This is the first opportunity I've had to establish a home with people and friends, and it's like it's been a major change in my life. Of course, part of the problem was I was drunk till I was 40, drunk and drug and in terrible conditions. So, you know, I can't say I didn't have something to do with it. But this has been my home, and it's ending because the developers are taking it over and the rest of the block, and there'll be 72 condos erected here. And in the meantime, I was going to abandon everything. All the young people I know said, Burkhart, this is your opportunity to get rid of all this shit, throw it away and run off to Europe. We do it all the time. And I was listening to them for a couple of months, but then last week I said, that's bullshit, because they're going to come home to their parents' house, and where in the hell am I going to come home? You know, where am I going to sleep, and what am I going to do? So I'm just going to reestablish myself, find another place, and get on with the work I've been doing. And my daughter, who talked to me last night in tears, she was saying, Dad, I thought you were leaving. I was born in that house, and you were running off to Europe, and I thought I'd never see you again. She's so happy to know that I decided to stay here. So I'm going to be staying here till the sheriff show up, but there won't be any coffee houses past May 1st. If anybody knows how I can get some attention with newspapers or Tribune or any of them, I mean, I'd like, because one thing is happening here, I mean, I'm being thrown out of my house, and this whole, I remember when the rents started going up and all the young artists who were living in the community, living off their parents or working in Starbucks or whatever they were doing, and they're all, well, we're moving out of the neighborhood, and we're moving to Wicker Park and Pilsen and blah, 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 because they are pricing us out of the neighborhood. And I thought, boy, that's so funny, because they're going to Pilsen and all these other places and price them out of the neighborhood. And now, sure enough, their parents are buying all that property up. And I thought, oh, you know, you ought to come live with us, and you ought to come down and live in Pilsen. I said, you know, this neighborhood was a Puerto Rican neighborhood run by two gangs 40 years ago. And when I first moved into it, I moved into it in and out several times. I decided to make it my home, and I became one of those people who live in the community, the indigents who actually create the community. And they're really, essentially, they're artists. And they don't just get up and move every time the rent gets raised, and then go tear up another neighborhood. And I lived in this neighborhood for a long time and paid huge rents, and it was all right. And the only reason I'm leaving is, you know, finally it's time to go. And the place is being reduced to dust and bought up. So it's so ironic because, as I say, the last artist is going to leave the neighborhood. And then what is left in this neighborhood? 72 more condos. They're building two more banks right about 2 blocks from here. There'll all be banks to finance the condo, people who buy into the condos, and something for their nerves, some Starbucks, and an occasional Walgreens. And it's going to be it. And oh, I forgot the bars all over here that they use to anesthetize their children. So I'm happy to get the hell out of this place. I'm telling you, but I don't know where I'll go. And it won't be like to create a situation like this. As I say, this evolved out of my need and my loneliness and my pain, because I was just some old man a few years ago walking around talking to himself in his basement. And now I think people are listening, or someone, I hope. And so I'm not going to have another coffee house. And I'm going to get on with a lot of the work I haven't been doing for a few years, cataloging my photography and returning to my own basic work, which is not washing coffee cups and all that stuff, which I, did with a great amount of love, but it's time to move on. So I'm saying all that. And in the meantime, Chicks That Kick are here. And I was saying earlier, the original Chicks That Kick, Shelley Miller is kind of hosting the event tonight. And she didn't quite get her start here, but this is one of the first places she had a, what was it, kind of like a feature?
Yeah, what's the second place I played it open?
Second place is she played an open mic ever, and I gave her a feature, and she became like, and at the time there were a lot of young lesbians living here, I was saying, and they were actually older than 12 and 13. They were like 15, 16, 17, 18. And I've got the photographs to prove it. Oh yeah. Thank God they didn't jump on me. They were jumping on each other. Because I would have hated to have to go through it. I'd probably be in court today. So, I think at the time, the Chicks That Kick were all like first-class lesbians. All of them. But I watched over a period of time where 2 or 3 years later they were all like, they were no longer lesbians, and they all had boyfriends, and they all getting married. And although Sabrina Capaccio, who's off running in New York, she was one of the original Chicks, and I think Tara, of course, she's with a guy now for 2 years, so they all like abandoned ship. With maybe 1 or 2 of them are actually still like whatever you do to it rather than whatever you do to it when you're doing it the other way. Believe me, I've done it about every conceivable way. But then that's, a long time ago, and I was very drunk and stoned for several years, so none of that mattered to me. Today, I wouldn't do it. Well, no, excuse me, I know I would. So never mind what I would do or not do. But I'm not really hosting this. I'm just saying all this so I can get back to making the coffee. And in a minute, Shelley's going to be saying all this stuff and figuring out who's performing next. And I'm going to come around. Anybody who didn't hand me $5, that's the donation that I'm asking for. But I'm also going to repeat that it's only a donation, so you can give more. 10, 20, I mean, it's only a donation. And then you don't really have to give it to me, but it's going to be part of your legacy, or my legacy, or something. As I say, it's about time I quit talking and turn this over to Shelley, so I know coffee's probably not ready, and I want to get there, and I want to see if anybody gives me $5 right now, after I hyped everybody for it.